Welcome, everyone. I want to take you on a healing journey of my new show called The Valley. The Valley is a sunken mindset that affects/effects an individual emotionally, physically, psychologically, and spiritually. Being in the valley can affect how a person sees themselves, how they see the world. Feeling safe and seen is something I've always struggled with, so I wanted to create an environment/platform where all people could feel safe and feel seen. The objective is to come out of the valley, but not without doing the work. You have to fight for it. What choice will you choose when freedom is on the other side awaiting you?
Do you ever have survivor's remorse?
Oh, that I did better sometimes. And I used to always feel the need to explain myself or dummy it down. Like, I remember one time, like, friends from back, like, you know, in my neighborhood came over. And I was saying to my husband, like, they were like saying, oh my God, I really like your house. And my house needs a lot of work. Like, it's nothing. And, you know, saying that. And I was like, oh, come on, my house, you know, needs a lot of work. It's not, you know, it's nothing. And my husband's like, why are you saying that? Like, be proud. Like, why do you have to dummy it down? Like, no one handed it to you.
Right.
It's not like your parents died and were like, here's a house. So I used to feel a lot of that and take on other people's problems. Like, okay, I'm doing good in life or decent, right? What is good? Good is a state of mind, right?
Because it's different for everybody.
It's different for everybody. People might look at me and be like, she's bottom of the, right? And other people are. So I always used to feel guilty and take on other people's problems and try to fix. I'm trying now not to always get consumed. I mean, I even do it like with students. I was today, like, the one little girl did not want to go home, and she'll like hit me, but then she'll tell me she's sorry and want to hug me, and like I feel so bad, right? And I was telling my assistant, like, I feel like I'm going to pick her up, call her dad and say, can I take her with me tomorrow? And like spend the day with her, like with my other kids too, but like get her out. And but like, I don't know if that's the right thing to do because now I'm getting too involved, right? Or I'll like find some mom that needs food and I'll just overly try to help and give. And I have to learn boundaries and not to get myself so consumed like that.
I just think as long as you have balance, because I think those are great things to do, but as long as it doesn't consume you.
Or take away from my own family. Yeah. But I have enough to go around, you know? Exactly. I got a lot of energy and time, and I make it always work. So, yeah.
For sure.
You know, like, what's wrong with if someone needs a dresser and, like you know, your cousin was like...
Yeah, she said, tell.
I got to find her one. I got to find her a dresser.
Tell. I said, me and she was like, she been on it. She been needing that dresser, so I was just like...
Oh, no. All right.
Yeah, so she been on. She told me twice. I was like,
she wants a tall dresser, right?
She wants a tall dresser.
Okay.
So, look, Fred gonna see it now. Fred, she
I'm going to find that tall dresser and bring it to her, yeah.
I wanted to know, so being that you grew up in the inner city and then your kids, you know, you guys live in, I would say the suburbs, right? Or whatever, beautiful place.
It's okay.
To somebody else, like we were talking about, is a mansion.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
So I'm going to ask you a question, but one of the things we were talking about was your middle son, right? And you were explaining...
that he went on a play date, like now it's probably like 6 months ago, and I picked him up and I said, oh, did you have a good time? He's like, Mommy, they live in a mansion. Oh, their house is so beautiful, and I wish, you know, we had a house like that. And it was like... I couldn't believe him. Like, have I not taught you anything? To be humble, or like, you have a great house. You have a great house compared to a lot of other people who are living with family or a tiny apartment, or, you know, and I had a conversation with him and drove him past my house in South Trenton I grew up in, and he was like, no, you didn't live there. And to me, like, oh my God, I would love to go back in it, and I would feel like it was the best place in the world, you know? If I could go back in there one more time, like, that was my home. Like, you were talking like you didn't know any different. So for sure, like, my kids... You
think it was a culture shock for him to see it?
Yeah. For sure, yeah.
What do you, like... So one of my questions was, how do you give your children balance from the life you came from versus how they live now? And you kind of just talked about it a little bit.
Well, like my oldest son, I feel that he is the most like me. Like, he's independent and he's mature and he's responsible and he'll work hard. Like Saturday he worked a full shift for like this, for a Boy Scout thing, and he made $100. Like, that was a full
So
day's
he
pay
got the
for a
hustling
13.
spirit from
He
his
has a
mama.
hustle, so I expect a lot out of him. Sometimes too much, where I have to tell myself the balance is that he's still a kid. Tara, just because you had to grow up really fast and had a lot of responsibility that kids shouldn't have had to have, doesn't mean that your kids should have it the same. But in the same token, like, I'm not going to sit there and clean the house and my kids are going to sit on video games. Like, we're all going to do it.
Yeah.
My big one will joke with me and say, why do I have to earn my own Boy Scout dues? Why do I have to sell candy? Why do I have to save my money for new clothes? Because I'm like the hand-me-down queen. My friends don't have to do that. So I have to hear that a lot.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that in time they'll appreciate where I'm coming from and how I've tried to teach them about money and working hard. Like, I hope that as it came to me in time, like from my parents, that they'll be, you know, so I need to have a balance. Like, we're not poor, so I don't have to watch so much, but I also don't want them to think or let them be led to believe they're entitled.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
they're not entitled.
I love it because at the end of the day, I remember being younger, and at 14 years old, my dad, like, I remember we got our check. I was working at Junior 1 or whatever. That's my school. Shout out to Martin Luther King Middle School. So I was in Junior 1 working WESEP, and I remember when I got my check or whatever, my dad took us to this place downtown for prom to get our stuff. So I'm like, oh, I want that. And he was like, you gonna pay for it? And I'm like, what? Like, we were so mad, me and my brother, you know, RIP to my brother Will. But we're so mad. Like, I didn't understand as a kid, like, what he was doing for me.
Same.
And I think that, you know, I had my dad on the couch too, on the first episode, and I really hope he let me air it. I didn't realize what I had. And I was telling my dad I took him for granted because I remember being a younger kid, growing up in the inner city, seeing the other kids stay out late. You get what I'm saying? Past the, you know, street light and all that. And I couldn't understand at that little age, like, why can't we go play? Like, why can't we go? Like, why are you so on us? Like, let us. But now that I'm older and some of those friends are dead. Some of them are in jail. You get what I mean? Some of them can't even figure out their life, and they don't have no structure. Like, Tara, it's so many people I know around my age. They're still living with people, or they're are still living at home, or can't really balance a checkbook. You get what I mean? They're so dependent upon somebody else, or in relationships with somebody else. Because I remember Facebook said something about, they call them hobosexuals, like people who stay in relationships so that way they can avoid being homeless. You get what I mean? So it's just like, I thought that was funny. But it's just like, so many people my age that don't have their stuff together because
no one made them accountable.
Nobody, and accountability is you. I remember my dad, and I don't know if this is the right wrong thing, but my dad told me early on, like, I'm your father first. I am not your friend.
Same.
Maybe when we get older, you get what I'm saying? But right now, it's my responsibility to be your father. And I think that it's so crazy nowadays. Parents are trying to be their kids' friends.
Take them to Starbucks, they take selfies with their kids.
And I don't think there's nothing wrong with being somewhat of a friend inside of being the parent first. Like, you could talk to me. Like, I would, if I was ever to be a parent, I would want to be a parent first, but I also want to be able to build a rapport with my kid where they feel comfortable with talking to me. You get what I mean? Because sometimes you're looking, oh, this is my mom, my dad. I'd rather go tell my friends or talk to them. So I want to create some type of environment, some type of safe haven where my kids can come talk to me. But at the same time, I would have to be father first because that's my calling. This is what God has allowed me to steward over your life. So I have to pour into you. I'm going to be accountable to God. You get what I mean? So I have to be mindful and what I'm teaching you, and be mindful of what I'm saying, and be mindful of how I'm living, because they're watching you. Like
100%.
Today,
we know that in the classroom.
We know that in the classroom. I was just walking. You know, sometimes I drift off. I'll be in la where I'm just walking on the, you know, trying to balance myself, just walking on the thing. And then when I came back to my side, I looked, and the little boy was right there. I'm like, what you doing? He's like, I'm following you. So even in the little things like that, like, they're always watching. You get what I mean? What is it that you like? We didn't get into it, but we talked about the business. You talked about your mother, you know, pushing you and everything like that. What inspired you let's take it back. Being that you are a little bit more well off than you were, do you feel like your past trauma affects how you save your money, how you budget, because honestly, you're at a point in your life where you're making decent money, more than probably you ever have, or maybe even your parents, I don't know, where you can, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to pinch and dime. So do you think because of who you used to be, it affects who you are now?
I think like it started, the anxiety for that started like when I was a teenager. And if I did something my mom didn't like, because, she was bipolar. So like one day she was this, the next day she didn't like something I said, she would say, get out. And I'd be 14 or 15 and she meant it.
Wow.
And it was like, well, where am I going to go? How will I pay bills? I was working at a Burger King at the time, making $5.05 an hour. That was minimum wage. And talking about your dad, every time I got paid, I worked 18 hours a week. That was the legal amount for a 14-year-old. I'd have to give my dad $20 for gas because he drove me from South Trenton to Sloan Avenue 3 days a week. So I started there, like I was getting my paychecks. I'm going to save money. They're not going to know about it because my mom, she's going to, what if she makes me leave? Like I got to be able to, so it was like it started, I got to be able to save to be okay if she throws me out. And then it was, well, I'm so embarrassed of my home. I was so embarrassed of my house growing up. Like it was dirty and it was, it wasn't filthy, but it wasn't clean like my friend's house and nice and bright. And my dad didn't paint the walls and mismatched furniture with holes in it. And we had mice and it was like, wasn't nice. So it was, well, my dream now is to save up so I can have a house I'm proud of. So I saved and saved and saved and saved and saved. And worked and worked and worked. Like that was my mind on the prize. Go to school, get it. So then I finally did get a decent house, but it's like so in me to like not blow my money. Now it's to save, not even for my kids, because I'm of the mindset like I had to work for my own. I'm not handing it to you.
For sure.
So maybe I'm saving for like my 50s. I don't know.
I wanted to say, like, has anybody in a long time said like they're proud of you? Because I want to say, like, I think
I want to, maybe my mother-in-law has said she was proud of me.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe Ron. Probably not my kids, but I thank you, Richard.
Yeah, I wanted to say, just what you're talking about, just growing up in the inner city, you get what I'm saying, in the neighborhood that you grew up, you're saying you're dealing with mental health, your mom dealing with mental health, you get what I mean, your father dealing with alcoholism, you get what I'm saying, and like you said, that to me, that's trauma, you get what I mean, not knowing like, okay, am I going to have somewhere to stay? I don't know what version I'm going to get today, so going through all of that, I want to say I'm proud of you. You get what I'm saying?
I try not to bring that uncertainty ever around my own kids. That's a big step. That's a big thing I work on. But like mental illness, again, like addiction runs so deep. So maybe I won't always be with it. I might go off the deep end too, Richard. You might see me next year and I'll be like talking to myself. You take so much in and...
Nah, you gonna be good. But I definitely wanted to say I'm proud of you because it's just like you've been through stuff and just to see where you are and you didn't allow your circumstance to define who you are.
But I definitely have my hang-ups. I definitely need work. We always still need I need a lot of work, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because this show is The Valley, can you tell me a time in your life where you was in the valley, a sunken place, the wilderness, the trenches at the bottom? Because everybody rock bottom is different. I always tell my listeners, well, I ain't got no listeners yet, but we gonna pretend I got some, that, when I was in the valley, God had met me in the valley. He met me at my lowest place. So I want to know, what was your valley moment in your life and how did you overcome that moment? Or are you still overcoming it?
I know one of them was my mom died suddenly when I was 24. She was only 54. And when I tell you that my mom and I were like enmeshed means like a parent-child relationship that's not healthy, So like codependent? Very codependent. It was mainly like me and her. We only had each other.
So your father is deceased?
He is now, but like my parents were married, but they didn't have like a typical marriage. Like he slept on the couch, he worked nights, she didn't really like him very much. You know, they loved each other, but you know, again, dysfunction, chaos. So it was just me and her. So I mean, at that time in my life, like, of course, I had friends. I had graduated college, but we were very close. So when she died, and it was sudden, you know, it was, and knowing I was like stuck with my dad, who was a mess. Like a big old mess that I knew I had to take care of, and anger, because like she threw me out like a month before she died, and we had just started talking like 2 weeks before. Thank God, through the grace of God, my dad like would, you know, call me and say, we got to come see mommy, you know. I mean, we were all like very loving. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, we were very loving, the three of us, but it was a lot of dysfunction, right? So there was never a day that went by that we didn't say I love each other. So when she died, and it was so sudden, she had just bought a little puppy, a Shih Tzu. I was a mess. So I did a lot of drinking. You know, I did a lot of drinking, crying,
so you like
lost.
essentially became your father in a way.
For a little bit,
moments.
I was, and my dad was sober at that time. He had gotten sober in '87, so he was sober 25 years when she died. But then he went back out on pill addiction once she died. So then he started all over again. So then it was working with him all over.
25 years clean.
When she died, it was
And
like
when she died,
the light went off, and he was like, I'm done. He stopped taking his bipolar meds, started using, you know, pain pills, and he was off to the races. In a different way, I guess, you know, older, more slowed down, making crazy decisions, you know. But so that was really hard. That was definitely a bottom for me. Lost. I felt completely alone because I had no family except my mom and dad, right? And now I'm stuck with this dad.
No brother, no sister.
Who's a mess. I had a half brother, and he wound up like killing himself like 4 years ago, but I didn't really know him. He was raised by his grandmom, and my dad had 3 daughters, but he really didn't raise them from like teenage years on, so they lived with their mom. So no, it's just me. And now it's just me and my dad. So I felt very alone, which took me to a bottom. Like, that was hard, you know, even though I had friends, I was a college graduate, I had a decent job, I was independent. I still went through the motions of everything, but I just felt very lost.
I think that's amazing when I say amazing, as far as, that's why I say everybody's valley looks different, because you were still able to be functioning.
Well, yeah, like a functioning alcohol. Right, I was a functioning I still would function no matter what, right?
But
no matter what was going
inside,
on.
you were feeling like, I'm in the valley.
But I could never be fully broken, because then who was going to take care of him? I always knew I couldn't completely let myself go, because first it's who's going to worry about my mom, then it's who's going to take care of my dad. And now, even if I wanted to, like, people say they need time, whatever, like, who's going to take care of my home, my kids, you know, so it's, maybe there's a purpose for that. Maybe God has it all lined up to keep me going, because there's so many people that count on me. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was you able to get through all of that?
I mean, you know,
it
was
like
her time. It was, you know, God. It was knowing I had to take care of my dad. And because of her death, my dad and I, he only lived 6 more years, but him and I became so close. I had finally a relationship with him that I never had all those years, because my mom overpowered it. She wanted me all to herself, you know, kind of thing, because she was codependent. She was lonely, you know, and she would be mad at me if I didn't give her all my time, kind of thing. So then I had gained a dad. Wow, cool. I mean, you never get over it, right?
But you can heal through
it.
Yeah,
you get past it, and I have, you know, they gave me a great life.
Yeah. So what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy?
Yeah, your legacy.
I want to leave the world better than I found it. Whatever that looks like. I'm hoping that I'm raising 3 decent kids, right? That can make a difference. I'm hoping that, I mean, people remember that I made them laugh.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you have everybody.
You said I'm one of a kind. So I hope my legacy is that people can be like, that's Tara.
I want to know, what do you tell do you have the conversation? Remember I was saying about going back to racism, how I, you know, basically, you know, as a kid and being, I don't bully, prejudice, whatever. Do you have those hard conversations, or those conversations with your kids about racism and you know, that we're all the same, and you know, about judgment and
well, it's
all
funny.
of those
It's funny you
things.
say that because we watch my older son and I watch this show every night called Friday Night Lights. It's about a football team because he likes football. And on one episode, the football player Smash is a black kid, senior or junior in high school, and he has a white girlfriend. And they go to dinner. His black mom and her white parents at dinner, and the white parents start saying like, "We don't think this is a good idea." And Smash is looking at his mom, thinking his mom's going to back him up like, what do you mean it's not a good idea my black son dates your daughter? Smash's mom's like, I don't think so either. Because both parents think life would be too hard. This show took place like 2000. So my son's sitting there and his best friend, and I said, what do you think about that, Luke? And he's like, what do I think about what? I'm like, what do you think about a black guy with a white girl? You're a white guy with a black... Yeah, you're a white boy. What would you think about dating a black girl? He's like, I don't think nothing of it. Whatever. And it was so different from how I grew up because my parents, you know, Polish, Catholic, traditional, like, you're white and you're going to have a white boyfriend and you're going to have a white husband.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was anything against anyone else. It's just how it was.
Right.
Where now it is so different. Where it's so... That's... That's the least of anyone's problems.
Right. I was just about to ask you, like, what would you do if George, you know, brought home a, you know, a black girl and said, Mom, you know, I love her. I want to be with her. Like,
yeah, I mean, I would hope that I can, you know, she'll like me and it'll be relatable, right? Because I think that even though people don't talk about that, it can be where people feel like a little... It might feel a little weird at first, right? That's human nature. Things that are different. But I don't know. I would be fine, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and
wow.
obviously my son, like, he knows no different. Different than I do, you know? He's like, he didn't even know why I was asking him that. That's my point. It's like, it's so normal and natural and diverse, and...
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way, Richard.
Yeah, I think so too. What do you think that you would, if you could say something to your father, like, what do you think that you would tell him?
I would thank him for everything he ever showed me. The good, the bad. My dad, yeah. You know.
And what about your mom?
Same. I have no hard feelings, you know, to anything that that we experience or I experienced, you know. I'm at a place now where I know different. I know they did the best they could. I know a lot of things weren't normal or right, but...
When did you discover that?
I always knew.
Because some people, as I got older, I come to realize that. But as a little kid, it's just like...
When you're over other people's houses and their parents don't live like your parents or act like your parents. Or another thing was weird, like my mom and dad never had other friends, like adult friends, couples. They never went anywhere with anyone else. You know, it was just them two, like miserable together. You know, like I knew those things weren't normal. But it just was the way it was. So I would just tell them like, hey, I'm okay. You know, I think that maybe like God, I know you have always told me God has a plan. He knows what's going to happen when. So both my parents were taken from me like young. I didn't have like sisters or anyone to rely on really, right? To lean on, to talk with emotionally, financially, you know, whatever. But they had a plan. Like maybe they made me so independent because they knew one day they weren't going to be here, you know, too soon. And that they somehow knew I would be okay.
Wow.
So.
And you're doing it.
I'm
and
doing
you're
okay.
Married. You get what I mean?
Right.
Family.
Thank God. My kids are my everything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about your husband?
He's wonderful too, but the kids are first. The kids are my world. The kids are my blood.
Okay.
They're my blood.
Yeah.
Right? They're all the blood I have, really. So.
You know, it's just like, I know when I hear people
But I wouldn't have them if it wasn't for Ron, right?
Definitely, for
Right.
sure. That's your husband. So I know I hear people say, like, you know, when we talk about faith and stuff like that, I always say, like, people, you know, even your kids or us, whatever, like, people shouldn't be our everything. God should be our everything. Because remember, the kids, they don't belong to you.
Right,
You get what I mean? They
know.
belong to God.
That was the wrong answer I gave,
You get
Richard.
what I mean? No, but it's
God should
your
be-
answer. No, it's
Yeah.
your answer, though. You get what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't want to take that away from you, but just, you know, in hindsight, a lot, because there's going to be a time where we're going to have to let go of each other, and we all going to have to go into eternity. You get what I mean? So we definitely want to have that perspective and that mind state, like, okay, God, at the end of the day, I know they belong to you. You get what I mean? So I got to do my, my due diligence in making sure, I give them back to you. You know, is faith important? Is that something that you would want to instill in George and Dean? And
we went to church yesterday.
Okay.
And it was, actually it was around here. It was in Chesterfield, I guess, sort of around here.
Okay.
We kind of came down 295, a different church because it's where my cousin goes. And I felt like it was a little bit more extreme than what I'm used to, but I know that the pastor, well, from what I could gather, because he just he read from scripture, and at the end he said, Jesus came once, he died on the cross for you. He said that death, that wasn't God's intention for people to die. It happened because of sin, right? That's why we die now, which I never knew before. And then he said, like, at the end, when he does come back, he's taking some of you up here and some of you down there. And like, when you hear it like that, you're like, oh shoot, right? I got to do the right things. And I hope, and I feel like I'm instilling the right things in my kids. I hope and pray that I am. It is important to me. I need to go to church more often with them. But my son, like my oldest son tonight, he goes to a youth group on Mondays. He goes to the youth group retreats where he's with all preteen and teens, that they do scripture. They do that all weekend. And I'm so proud of him that he goes,
Wow.
And my middle one's been doing, CCD. And then, George comes home saying prayers because he's in Catholic school now. So,
okay.
yeah, there's definitely a seed.
So I wanted to know just a little bit as we come into a close.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your business.
My business is vintage furniture. I buy it and resell it. Sometimes we have to refinish it. We have a small little shop right in Langhorne, mid-century. I work with a man and a woman, both very good friends of mine. We're like our business family. It's a lot of fun. It's extra money. It's exciting. It's empowering to know that I can run a business, help to run one, that sometimes feels successful, right? So, I would maybe tell my younger self to have gone into business then, and not to punch a clock for anyone else, right? That's a financial success tip. Yeah, that's right. You'll never have full financial freedom when you punch a clock for someone else. So if I could have done a business 20 years ago and known then what I know now. But it's good. It's a fun gig. We give back. Like, we were at the business last year, was able to buy 90 presents for every student at Mill Hill. Remember, we got donations from customers, and we donated proceeds from our furniture. We donated.
I never knew that.
Wow. Yeah, that's how we were. Hope maybe we can do it again. No promises, but it's going good. It's a lot. It's my hobby and my passion, I guess, and it's turned into something that's we were able to buy a camper with it, and we have like a little vacation spot. Makes Ron happy, and so anyway.
Amazing! Shout out to Ron and all the kids. It's a little girl or a little boy who feels different, who has gone through or maybe gone through the same exact things that you're going through. Who may be white, maybe black, maybe Chinese, whatever race, but they're growing up in the inner city, wherever it is around this world. And they feel hopeless. They feel like, I don't know what's going on with my mom. My daddy is just unpredictable. And they don't see the gold at the end of the rainbow. They don't see
what's out there
tomorrow. Can you just take maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute to look at this camera, this your camera, and just tell that little girl, because I believe like as you're speaking to that little girl, that little boy, you're also healing the little girl inside of you. So what would you tell them by looking at that camera?
I would tell, like I tell my kids in my class, I would say that I believe in you and that you're worth it, and that you're beautiful, special. Do not give up. Know that, yourself you were put here for a purpose greater than you probably realize yet. And to surround yourself with people that are positive, make you feel loved. And if you work at it, it works if you work it. Yeah. Life, success, love.
I love it. And then also know that pain and situations are temporary.
Yes.
Just because of what you're going through.
If he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it.
Amen. So, listen, hallelujah. It don't always got to be that way. I think it's also a perspective. You get what I mean? Like if we tell ourselves it's
I just
never
posted
going to
that
get
on the
better.
story. Yeah.
It's never going to get better. It's always going to be like that.
It's your attitude.
Like, exactly, because you could be living in the slumps and feel like I'm living in a mansion. You get what I mean? So it's here. So I have some hill work / heart work, and you got a chance to actually see it because I sent it to you beforehand. As we come into a close, I wanted to thank you so much for coming onto the show, the podcast. This was really, it just made me realize, like, make me appreciate you even more. And me, honestly, sincerely saying, I'm really, really proud of you. You know, and I'm really grateful to know you. So we got some hill / heart work. I wanted to say, pray more, worry less. I know that's something that we both do. We kind of worry, we have anxiety. Slow down and smell the roses. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Spend some alone time with you and God. You know, sometimes we get so busy with life and all the things that we have is not always going to be there. You know, all these things are temporary. So make sure you spend time with God. Love yourself. Create balance in your life. I didn't put it in here, but I've said this before because I got to work on it. Let your no be stronger than your yes. You get what I mean? Sometimes it's no and it's not. I don't know it. Just no.
No means no, yeah.
Yeah. Create boundaries with your friends and loved ones. Forgive. Love your neighbor, and therapy. That's something I tell all my people is therapy. So on the Valley, I like to give my guests, depending on who it is, but lately I just been giving, So I have a gift for you. And if you would like to open it up and see what it is.
Okay, Richard. Then I gotta
it's
go,
something
Richard.
very,
What is it, Richard?
It's nothing, I had to make sure my address wasn't on it.
How am I gonna open this, Richard?
I think it forever. You could have just done
the Hulk. What could it be? Be still. Oh.
Yeah, be still. Make sure you hold it up for the camera so the
be
camera
still
can see
and
it.
know. Is that what it says?
That's the scripture, Psalms.
That's such a pretty cup, Richard.
Be still, because sometimes I know you be real anxious, so just be still. That's the scripture in the Bible. Be still, So that's for you. So I hope that you enjoy it and keep it.
I'm gonna use it all week long when I'm drinking my ice water out of it.
All right, you guys. So listen, I'm excited that you guys got a chance to come and do this episode with us and listen. Please leave comments. Listen, we like likes, we like shares. Remember, don't forget to get my book, Trauma Heal People. The work is in the healing. Make sure you guys watch seasons 1 through 3. And again, I love you guys. I'm appreciative. Until next time, The Valley.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to announce to you all that my first book, Trauma Healed People, The Work is in the Healing, is available right now on barnesandnobles.com and amazon.com. Go get you a copy now. What are you waiting for?